When we started LCC Connect in 2022, our aim was to create a podcast network that connects our college with the community and our community with the college. Since then, we've grown to offer more than 30 podcasts, making LCC Connect one of the largest higher ed podcast networks in the nation. I'm Daedalian, General Manager of LCC Connect. Welcome to Behind the Connection. Every podcast begins with a story. Now, sometimes it's the story being told, and sometimes it's the story of the person behind the microphone. Today's guest has spent her career helping other people discover their voices, whether it's through classrooms, literary journals, novels, or podcasts. Melissa Ford Lucken. She's the host of the award-winning show Washington Square on Air, which is quickly approaching its 100th episode. And as if that wasn't enough, she also recently launched a brand new podcast that gives student writers the opportunity to hear their own work come alive. Now let's go behind the scenes and find out what's happening behind the connection. So you teach creative writing, composition, English, and you've written across several genres yourself. Looking back, when can you tell me that storytelling became a part of your life?
Probably just as a little kid, reading books, having books read to me. And I didn't realize that other people didn't think in stories and write stories. So probably just from as young as I can remember. But I do remember when I was in third grade, I wrote my first book, and I still have it. It's a little spiral-bound notebook about a haunted house.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I will admit I stole the plot from a movie I saw. But
I think, third grade, I think you're allowed to do a little plagiarism.
Yeah, for sure. The characters were mine, but the plot was definitely stolen.
Would you call it plagiarism in that case, or would it be called something else?
I guess technically it would be plagiarism, but I would just call it bad writing, probably
bad
at this
writing.
point, yeah. But it has illustrations, so that's nice.
So was there a moment that you realized that writing wasn't just something you enjoyed, it was something you wanted to make a career out of?
Probably my mom gave me a book about how to write a book, and I hadn't really thought that I could do it until she gave me a book one year for Christmas, and that was probably like 35 years ago. And when I read the book, I thought, well, I could do that. And so then that's when I started to think I could be serious about it and actually write something and sell it.
Were you still like high school age, college age, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I would have been 24.
Okay, so college age.
Yeah, I graduated from college. It was right around the time that my first son was born.
Did you have a different direction then when you were younger?
No, I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
I thought I was going to be a high school teacher, and I thought I was going to teach high school English, but I didn't think that would also include me writing stories and books and stuff.
Yeah, makes sense. And you write horror, romance, adult fiction. Am I hitting the right ones?
Yep, I've also written some young adult fiction, and I've written scholarly stuff looking at the structure of different movies and analyzing the structure and the way that it helps and hinders different thematic elements of the film. So after writing a bunch of fiction, I started using what I understood about fiction to write scholarly stuff.
Gotcha. And out of those genres, is there a particular one that you like?
Currently, I like writing horror the most, just because I've always been a horror fan, and there's a lot of stuff that you can do in horror that you can't do in a romance. You can be a little more creative, I think. And I like to try and scare myself, and that's kind of fun.
Have you ever tried to blend the genres? Like horror with like romance?
Not horror with romance, but that's a good question. I guess like a romantic suspense is a little bit blending genres.
Yeah.
But
yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of established the fact that you not only write, but you're a teacher too. Mm-hmm. So how have those two things influenced each other over the years?
Well, when I first started at LCC, I was a tutor. I tutored mostly in English and composition. So at that time, I wouldn't say there was much crossover. So I was a tutor for a long time, and then I was an adjunct instructor, and I taught reading and writing, and there wasn't much crossover at that time either. Just loving books and stories and words and thinking and all that in general, but I don't think they didn't really connect. Got hired full-time, started teaching composition, and it was really only after I was asked to teach writing the novel about 10 years ago that I would say that they really started to merge, because prior to that, the lives were very separate.
Mm-hmm.
Once I was able to start teaching writing the novel and talking about my writing process in class, because prior to that, I never talked about my writerly self to my students.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I don't know, it was completely separate. Even in my mind, I think it was separate. But then once I could talk about it, at first it felt really weird.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
And then they definitely started to merge more and more. And now I would say there's a lot more crossover in the way that I teach and the way that I can see that structure. The way that you structure a book is really similar to the way that you structure an essay, you know.
Do you feel like teaching has kind of made you a better writer?
I think so, yeah, for sure. If nothing else, just having the discipline to sit and write, because that's the hardest part about writing a book, is just sitting there and writing, you know, another page, 200 pages later, you still got another 150 pages to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot.
I can see that. So you're also the host of Washington Square on Air, and you've been doing that pretty much since the beginning. Tell me a little bit about how you got involved with that.
Well, the Washington Square Review was relaunched, I guess, 4 years ago, and I was part of the relaunch team. So the Washington Square Review has been with LCC since 1972.
And for those that don't know, that is
our literary journal.
Yeah.
Yep. And when it was first put together in the 70s and up until the time that we relaunched it, it contained exclusively student work. So it was a literary journal very much for the LCC students, which is cool and great. When I relaunched it, I wanted to embed it in the class that I was teaching, which was creative writing 2, and have the students do the editorial work so that they could gain experience reading and reviewing submissions. So I was able to change the very first relaunched issue to a worldwide edition, and we used this thing called Submittable, which is the platform that all writers, well, most all writers, submit their pieces to: poetry, fiction, essays, and other things like that. So we were able to learn how to use Submittable in my class, which is really good experience. And then also they got to read the submissions from all around the world and pick them. So while we were working on the first issue, a couple of the other editors came and talked to you.
Yep.
So I'm not the one that came and talked to you in the first place.
Not originally, no.
No. And they told me about it, and their concept was a little bit different than what the direction that I took it in. They were more interested in having people read their poems on air, and I was more interested in talking to people about the writing process. And kind of like what you were asking me, I talk a lot about the writing process and their everyday life and how the two pieces do and don't fit together. So I kind of just lucked into it, really. And they said, well, go down and, record the intro. And I did. And then here I still am.
Well, and even if you go back to the earliest episodes, you can hear a different approach that each of you had. Mm-hmm. Because you definitely didn't align with what Rosalie and Susie. You didn't have the same vibe or even the same style.
Probably not.
That they were doing. It was like you were doing something different. And even then, between the two of them, if I remember right, even they were a little bit different.
Probably, yeah.
So as we're recording this anyway, we're coming up on 100 episodes of Washington Square on air. So congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
Awesome. As you look back, though, even since you started doing it on your own, because there was a point where you just took up the baton and ran with it, how has it evolved? What's a little bit different than how you originally started it all?
Probably when we first started, it was limited only to people that were published in the Washington Square Review. Mm-hmm. And so that was a smaller pool of people. As we've moved along, I've also invited other guests that I meet along the way. I do like to talk to scholars. So if I go to a conference and I meet somebody who's studying something really interesting, like I had a guest who was talking about her scholarship with Dungeons and Dragons. And I like quirky kind of pop culture topics like that. And I've also had some writers that I've met and some writers that I'm friends with come on and talk about, being writers. So the shift of the guests, I guess, is one thing. But me personally, I guess just finding my own way into what I think makes a good conversation about writing. And I think something that I've talked to you about is, in the beginning, I rarely said anything about myself at all.
Yeah.
And more recently, I start to talk a little bit more about my process and try to make it a little bit more of a conversation. while still highlighting the guest, because I always want the guest to be front and center.
Sure. Have you had a chance to really write much since you started like doing Washington Square on air? Do you get to write still?
Yep. Yeah. I don't know exactly what I've published since then, but off the top of my head, I did have a book come out, a Christmas romance.
Oh.
It's about a haunted house. There we go. I just can't get away from it.
There's the romance in the horror.
Yes, but there's a house that's haunted by these star-crossed lovers, and the legend of the town is that the couple will stay haunting the house until another couple meets and falls in love in the house.
Oh, I love it.
And so somehow in the town, that makes the house kind of a no-fly zone. Like, people don't want to go there because they don't want to just fall in love with somebody randomly because the ghost tricked them into falling in love with the wrong person. Mm-hmm. So my main character inherits the house from her aunt, and she sets up her wedding planning business there. But she doesn't know about the haunted legend. She doesn't know about the ghost. She doesn't know anything. So she gradually does learn the legend of why people don't, want to come to her house, which is, unfortunate because she's trying to have a wedding planning business there.
Awesome.
Yeah. And of course, there's a happy ending, so you can guess what happens. But
So I'm kind of curious, we talked a little bit about how teaching has influenced your writing and writing has influenced your teaching. Has the podcasting influenced either one of those?
Oh, yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
I think doing the podcast and talking to other people about their writing process has, in a really personal way, encouraged me to keep going and keep writing, even when I don't, feel like I'm in the mood, because I feel like I'm, just get to talk to other people who go through the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Like I said, the hardest part about writing is actually sitting there and doing the writing. It's not coming up with the ideas. That's the easy, fun part, because you can do that, like I said, anywhere. You can be like riding a bike or waking up from a nap or in the middle of a meeting, and you've got an idea and you just build the story around it. That's the easy, fun part. But actually sitting down to write it is hard. So just getting to talk to other writers inspires me to keep writing. And I've started a couple podcasts, as you know, called Off the Page. Mm-hmm. Off the Page, Ink to Air is the creative writing one, and getting to bring students down here, the creative writing students, introduce themselves and then read some of their own creative work. I think it's really exciting for them because they feel like they're part of a creative community, and I think it's pretty special to come down and have a piece of your work documented, and it's like your slice in time of about where you are as a writer in that moment.
Right.
And you always get to have that. You can share that with other people. And so that feels like, I feel like I'm having my own party and I get to invite other people to it. And,
right.
Sometimes they're not as excited as I am because it's kind of intimidating to come down here. And
it is.
So
put a microphone in front of you. Yeah, completely. But
yep.
I think what you're doing is a definite confidence builder.
It definitely built my confidence.
Yeah. The show is, and again, you since you dove into it, let's dive a little further. It's Off the Page, from Ink to Air. That was originally intended to be just one show, but then as I dove into it, I was like, "No, I'm sorry, Melissa, this is going to be two shows." So
Yep.
what we ended up doing was making sister shows, basically. And at the time of this recording, the other one isn't out yet, but we anticipate that's going to be out in September. And it's called Discourse and Discussion. So what's the difference between those two areas?
One is for the creative writing students, and the other one is for the composition students. So in the composition class, we do discourse analysis toward the end of the semester, where they pick a pop culture topic or event, and they analyze the discourse around it, which is basically the conversation around a thing.
Yeah.
And so that can be conversations that take place on social media. They can take place through Instagram or TikTok, but it can also be other things where people are writing articles about a particular topic. So they investigate the discourse around a particular thing. And then, so what we set up for the podcast was them introducing their topic and their discourse and then talking to each other about it.
Yeah, and I think both are really great. I want to share with our listeners the reason why it happened, because I was sitting there listening to one of the discussions that became Discourse and Discussions, and I was editing the show and found myself, I just stopped editing the show because I just started listening to them. And I was like, no, we definitely got to make this its own show. It's really good. So I think it's great that you do it. Now, it didn't really originally start just as a podcast, though, right? This is kind of it kind of turned into that. You did something beforehand, from my understanding, in the classroom.
Yep. So
explain that a little bit.
We were in both, in the creative writing class for the past, 3 years, I've had the creative writing students do public reading in Dart Auditorium. So they start the semester reading to us in class, and then at the end of the semester, they would do a reading in Dart Auditorium. Mm-hmm. And when they do the reading in Dart, they can invite their friends and family, and that's pretty great. And it's a big public thing, and that's cool. But when I started to teach Creative Writing 1, I wanted to have something for them that was special, but also something that would help prepare them for that experience of reading in Dart. So that's when I came up with the idea to have them come down here and read with you, because in a way it's a little easier to read it down here because you don't really know that anyone's listening. They're not sitting right in front of you.
It is an interesting... Is dichotomy the right word?
Yeah, it's like
because
it's
not as intimidating, but it is. Mm-hmm. Because you also hear yourself through the headphones.
Yep.
And then you go, oh, my voice sounds like that. What?
Yes. Yeah. So you're dealing with your own voice and your own words at the same time, which can be a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing, I guess if they're actually going to be professional writers, you're going to have to do those podcast and radio interviews every once in a while.
Yeah.
So.
The last thing I would ever want, and I've told them this about the reading in Dart, is for them to have the first experience when the stakes are really high. Mm-hmm. If they're in an MFA program or they've been invited to do a public reading to promote their book or their poetry chapbook, I don't want that to be the first time that they have to read in front of people. So I would rather them read for the first time with us. Because by the end of the semester, we're all friends. It sounds terrifying at the start of the semester, but most of them say it's not too bad, or that they really liked it.
They seemed really relaxed around you, and there were some that I could tell had some nervousness about them, but they seemed to ease into it. Most of them.
Well, you get some credit for that too, because you make them feel welcome.
I try. I try.
Yeah.
Washington Square on Air itself is actually heading towards the 100th episode. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Are you excited about that?
Yeah, I am excited about that.
I think that's a milestone.
Yeah, it is. I never expected that to happen. I feel really, really lucky to have this opportunity to come down and talk to people. And so you asked me what I should do to celebrate my 100th episode.
Yeah, that's where I was going with this.
No, I don't know. I have a couple friends. Maybe they could come and interview me. Okay. And ask me questions, especially if they were former students that have become writerly friends. There's probably, I would guess, some things that they would want to ask me, but they couldn't ask me before because I was their teacher. And if I'm not their teacher anymore, maybe they could ask me. Or I could ask, I don't know, I guess I was trying to think of somebody that I knew that could ask me questions about both my writerly life and my teaching life. And if they knew me well enough to see the
other side.
Yeah, because they are, they can be very different.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I like the concept.
Yeah, well, I'll have to mull it over some more.
Well, you got about 10 episodes to make up your mind. So, at least at the time of this recording.
Right.
So, the other thing I wanted to bring up was the fact that you won an award.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
That was awesome. So, the episode was called, it was an interview with MK Punky. It's called Training to Gamble, and you can still catch it on LCC Connect. It earned a W3 award in 2025. So, tell me, what did that recognition mean to you when you got it?
I never in a million years would have thought that I would have had a podcast, let alone a successful one that won an award. I've always seen myself as a really quiet person, very introverted, but I realized after starting the show that my being a quiet person works for me because I'm happy to ask other people questions and get to them to talk about themselves more so than me sitting there talking about myself. So I am, even though I am introverted, I'm curious. And I do like to hear about what, other people are thinking and doing. So I guess that worked out for me. And it felt really special to be recognized that I was doing it well. Because when you're sitting here talking to someone, you don't really know if you're doing a good job. You could think you're doing a good job. And they seem like they're having fun. But how do you really know?
You don't.
Yeah. It's the same thing with writing, actually. When you write a book, you're like, I like it. I don't know if anyone else is going to like it.
You just kind of cross your fingers and hope. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. If someone listening has always wanted to write, but they couldn't, they just never done it. What's the type of advice you give your students that you would give to them?
Write whatever it is that you feel called to write, whatever genuinely and sincerely comes out of you that's yours. So don't try to write something that you think you could sell, or don't try to write the thing that you think that you should want to write. Just write what you actually really want to write, not what you think you should want to write.
I think what I've heard the most often is write what you know.
Well, I would say...
Is that true?
Maybe, but think about that, though. A lot of times people write books about serial killers, and they probably don't know what it's like to be a serial killer. But I think the emotional journey part, probably yes.
Let's hope not.
Maybe the emotional journey, write about that part that you know. Think about a character that is essentially someone that you know, or essentially who you are inside, and then put them in a different place. But yeah, a lot of times people get too hung up on what other people will think about the writing. If I write that, what will my mother say, or what will my cousins say? And you don't really have that much control over the stories that come out of you. And if you just try to write what you think you should write, it might be fine. It might be, publishable, but it won't be special.
Yeah.
You want to write the thing that's especially yours. And a lot of times, people get influenced by what other people are writing. I do tell students, like, it's really possible to have, for them to have a manuscript, a book they're working on, and they love it and they think it's going well. They go to a writing conference and they sit down at the lunch table with other people, and other people start talking about their books. Well, mine's about this, and mine's about that, and mine's about this other thing. And they start to think, well, mine's not anything like that, and they start to think that theirs isn't good because they're not doing what other people are doing. Well, if they're already doing it, then why would you want to do it?
Yeah.
Somebody's already doing that.
Yeah. Would you say that's a big misconception a lot of students have?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's too easy to kind of brush aside your own creative vision and think that it should be what you're hearing everybody else say they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And you've done quite a few books now. So do you get nervous? Do you get excited when a new one's coming out?
Probably a combination of both. It depends. But it's always hard because you never know how people are going to respond to it. And you don't have any control over it once it's out. I have gotten some bad reviews. Nothing, one of the very first books that I published was a young adult slasher kind of thing, where there was a serial killer and somebody had a body in the basement. It was very this would have been, 2000, So it was very young adult slasher film kind of thing. And somebody gave it 1 star and said, this is just nothing but a slasher film. I was like, yes,
that was the point.
Yes, it is. You've identified it correctly. So I think that was the first printed review I ever got, in a magazine, back when those used to exist. Yeah. So I guess I got that out of the way quick. And if there's between 1 and 5 stars, and there's just nobody can give you 0.
Nope.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah, and you write under a different name, right? Mm-hmm. What's the name?
Isabel Drake.
Isabel Drake. We'll have links and such in the podcast notes, so that if people want to check things out, they can. So make sure you email those to me, so I've got them handy.
Sure, happy to do that.
If you're not teaching or podcasting, are you always working on another story then?
Mostly, yes. I do also write scholarly things and essays.
Yeah.
I wrote an essay the past year. I worked on it on and off and sent it out for submission about my mother, who was in the process of passing away. So that was a very serious kind of thing. And I was glad to have written it because it gave me a chance to process what I was thinking and feeling.
It's understandable. Yeah.
So I think the one that I had written right before that was the haunted house Christmas ghost thing, which was obviously, like a romantic comedy. So I definitely swing both directions. Yeah.
Yeah, I could tell based on everything that we've talked about.
Yeah. I have to move around a lot. Sometimes people get the advice that you should always stay in the same genre, but I can't do that because it's the thing that I like about writing the most is that it's hard and it's challenging, and there'll always be, with any project, no matter how long, there'll always be that moment where you think it's terrible and that you can't finish it, and it just, takes you to the mat essentially, and the only way to finish it is just deal with it and keep going.
Right.
And I guess there's something about that process that I like.
That makes sense.
Even though it sounds really unpleasant.
Yeah. Well,
crying in a corner, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done my share of that.
Yeah.
All right. So I just want to say congratulations once again on everything you built with Washington Square on air. A lot of incredible success, but also reaching the milestone of 100 episodes. To me, that's huge. I think that's huge.
I guess it is a lot. I must have talked to a lot of people.
I know, because you don't realize it, and then you get to that point, and you're like, look back, and go, wow, that was a lot of shows.
Yeah.
I also want to say congratulations on launching off the page. We've got the 2 shows.
Mm-hmm. I need to say that I couldn't have accomplished all those things without LCC Connect.
Oh, yeah. Well, we do what we can. We try to stay behind the scenes as much as possible.
Okay.
I appreciate having you a part of this, though. You have been just awesome, honestly.
Thanks.
The one thing that you do differently that a lot of hosts don't is you take your recordings and you do them in bulk. Mm-hmm. So you'll go like, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours recording.
Yeah, a couple days in a row.
Do you usually feel tired or more inspired after all that?
Probably more inspired in the middle, but then by the time I get to the end,
done tired.
Yeah.
Okay, I was curious.
But it is helpful because I can just kind of stay in the mode of it. And I do like to write my own show notes, and I make sure that, every author I speak to, if they want to send me some links, I put them in the show notes. So that can be a little extra work, chasing people down.
It does.
Yeah. But I want to make sure that anybody who listens to that particular episode, if they want to connect with that author, that they can.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's your random question of the day. You ready?
Yep.
What story does your family always tell about you?
Oh, my mom had one when I was about 3. I don't think this is all that funny, but I was outside of our house, and I must have been about 3. I was wearing my winter snowsuit in the summer, and we had some kind of climbing jungle gym thing, and apparently I was climbing around in the jungle gym thing wearing this snowsuit, and she came out to ask me how I was, and I told her that I was hot. And she just, I don't know, she thought that was so funny, and it made me feel kind of dumb, like me being me. I'm sure there was a reason why I was wearing that snowsuit.
Yeah.
So she never even asked me, why were you wearing the snowsuit? And then she just went back in the house, which is such a total like late 60s, early 70s parenting style.
Yeah.
I was like, well, Mom, why was I outside unattended in the first place?
Right. But
it was, what it's been like, I don't know, 68. So parents were just like, whatever, kids around here somewhere. That was just the way it was.
I just know she's hot. That's all I know.
Yeah, laugh at her and go back inside.
If your life came with a warning label, what would it say?
If you say something wrong, she's going to notice, but she won't say anything. I'll just let you sit there saying your wrong thing. You'll just be adrift in your error.
So you let people just like run right into that cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Run over the cliff.
Yeah, it's their thing to do, not, yeah.
This is LCC Connect.
Voices.
Vibes.
Vision.